Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
I believe that the world would be such a nicer, more peaceful place if we actually were more respectful of one another.
And now here's the stars of our show, my mum and dad.
G'day, it's Dr. Justin Coulson, the author of 6 books about raising happy families and the founder of happyfamilies.com.au. I'm here with Kylie, my co-host, my wife, mum to our 6 daughters. Let's talk about manners because we've had a question from someone saying, how am I supposed to teach my kids manners? My 2-year-old, my 3-year-old, they've got such bad manners. They scream and they shout, they throw their food. How do we teach kids manners?
There is something so delightful about watching a 2-year-old say, thank you, or peace, mum. And it can be very challenging for families to deal with this. And yet, in so many ways, it can be really, really easy.
So let's talk about why manners are important. Because I come across parents from time to time who say, I don't make my kids say please and thank you. I'm not really that interested in teaching my kids manners. I think that they should just be who they want to be. Purpose of manners, what springs to mind for you?
I think one of the most important things about manners is it shows a respect for the other people that are in our lives and our spaces. It's very easy for us to become very self-centered and see the world through very narrow glasses.
Yeah, I reckon manners, not only do manners demonstrate gratitude, but they also show a respect for the humanity in another person. It's like, I'm considering you, I'm aware of you, I'm being respectful of you. And when we teach our children manners, what we actually do is we teach them to put other people at ease. When you watch some of those crazy talk shows on the telly, there's no manners. There's no respect for the other person. It's just, I've got to tell you what I think, blah, and out it comes out horribly. The other thought that I had about why manners are important is we're now talking about, on a national level, the importance of conversations around consent.
I think this is a really, really big one. And I think one of the things that stands out to me most about this is while we want to teach our children to respect other people and specifically as children respect the adults in their world, one of the most important things through this process is that we don't actually squash their voice. We don't stop them from having a voice. You know, when you talk about consent, most of these children who are in really just difficult situations find that they don't know how to use their voice because they've been taught to, respect their elders, to do as they're told.
So you're saying that they've been taught to have manners?
I don't think this is a manners conversation because you can be respectful but still have an opinion. You can be respectful and still say, no, I don't want to do that.
I would even argue, though, that when we talk to our kids about this topic, I explicitly tell them, you don't have to be polite when you're saying no to somebody. When it comes to issues of consent, when it comes to issues of your body, when somebody's putting pressure on you, I'm not interested in you having good manners and saying to, let's say, that boy at that party, would you please leave me alone? I don't feel good about this, or I'm uncomfortable. Forget it.
No, but this starts way earlier than that, because if they can't have those respectful conversations, no, I don't want to play with you right now, or no, I don't want to share my toy with you, or whatever it is, as they get older and they build into more difficult situations, they don't actually know how to express that. I think we've got to allow our children an opportunity to actually express what they're feeling.
Why do you think that manners are important? Like, why manners?
I believe that the world would be such a nicer, more peaceful place if we actually were more respectful of one another. The reality that we live in this space of massive diversity and the recognition that every one of us has a right to be here and to do life our way. If we could just be more respectful, I think that the world would just be such a better place.
Right, so manners are about respect. I look at manners as I'm considering you. I'm mindful that... So I'm thinking on a train, right? You get on a train and some people have telephone conversations on trains or in public places.
On speaker.
On speakerphone, so that the whole world can hear this conversation that's going on. And it's just so... I don't know how to say it. It's just so rude. I don't care about what's going on in your world. Please don't broadcast it to everyone in the train carriage or in the shopping centre or in whatever it is. There's a lack of consideration of others. It's disrespectful. It's not good manners. So I think aligned with your respect idea is this consideration. It shows that we're not the only people on the planet. We know it, and we're being considerate of others. That's what manners are all about.
So let's come back after the break and we're going to talk about what manners actually matter and how do we teach them.
It's the Happy Families Podcast.
For a happier family, try a Happy Families membership because a happy family doesn't just happen. Details at happyfamilies.com.au.
It's the Happy Families Podcast, the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now. And today we are talking manners. We've obviously talked about why manners matter, this idea that we are considerate of other people around us. But what manners actually matter?
Well, I've put a list together. I know that you've been working on your own little list as well. I'm going to start with table manners. I reckon once our children are young, we want to teach them to learn to use utensils, not fingers. I know that fingers were invented before forks, but at some point the kids have got to learn how to use their utensils. I reckon somewhere around the age of 3 or 4, we definitely want them using at least a fork and hopefully a knife. Fork in the left hand, knife in the right hand. Let's actually hold it correctly. And by the time they're about 5, most of the time, most kids should be able to manage it when we insist. Once they get a bit older again, we can insist a little more. Next thing, we've got to teach them that they do not wipe their face on their clothes. That's what napkins and serviettes are for. And can we just teach them to pass things rather than reaching across Dad's plate and then dragging their clothes through Dad's food, like their sleeve, and dropping the sauce on Dad's plate? Not that that's ever happened to me. I don't want to sound like I'm having a whinge here.
Well, while we're at the dinner table, we might want to talk about bodily functions as well.
Yes. Hey, now don't look at me there. I'm polite. I can't believe some of the sounds. I didn't know girls could make some of the sounds that our daughters have demonstrated that they can make. That's unbelievable. It's not very good manners that you're bringing that up in this podcast. I don't think our daughters are going to consent to that conversation. So what manners did you have other than bodily functions being kept to oneself, which was not on my list?
Look, I think that gratitude, an opportunity to express thank you, is probably at the top of my list. This changes the world. Mm-hmm. Gratitude.
Yep. What else?
Please.
Oh, actually, I'm going to interrupt you. Interrupting. There's one. We need to teach kids not to interrupt. Manners, very important. Just before you go on with please, when it comes to thank you, teaching them to say thank you is one thing, but also teaching them to write thank you and give thank you notes, those kinds of things. That takes manners to a whole new level, and it's never too young to start. Okay, back to you, please.
Please. Can I please go on?
Yes, please do.
So, asking permission for things.
Oh, yeah.
This is a really tricky one, especially in a big household. There are lots of people using the same things, and often we'll go into the fridge to cook something for dinner and somebody's had a snack on what was supposed to be tonight's dinner.
We have had so many eruptions in our family about people. That was my chocolate. That was my yogurt. That was my ice cream. That was the kids buy their stuff, they keep it in the fridge, and someone else takes it. So,
or who ate all the mashed potato from last night's dinner? I was going to use that tonight.
Yeah. Interrupting is another one that's on my list. I know we've just jokingly talked about it, but we've got to teach our kids not to interrupt. It's just agonizing when they do that, and saying excuse me.
Well, I've got a good one.
Yep.
Knocking before you enter a room.
Yeah.
And this can be more and more important as the children get older.
Or the later at night that it is.
But yes, I think that that's a really important one. And I think with that one in particular, it's very easy for us as adults to just storm into our children's rooms when we need them.
Yep.
Without actually being respectful of their space as well. And so this is a wonderful opportunity for us to actually model that behaviour. When we're going to go to their room, if their door's shut, we need to give them the respect and have a little knock.
Yeah, great one. What about reading over someone's shoulder?
Oh, I hate that.
Yep. When I was younger, we went on a school excursion to a place where there was going to be a fairly wide array of people that we may not have met or come across before in terms of ethnicity, race, et cetera, et cetera. The teacher told us before we got out of the bus, guys, you're going to see people who are dressed in ways that you're not used to seeing. You're going to see people who are not representative of what you're used to seeing. It's really important that you don't make comments about people's appearance. And teaching children to do that, even when they're with their friends, you don't make comments about what people are wearing, how their hair is, what their teeth look like, the size of their bodies, the colour of their skin. We want to teach our children to have manners when it comes to those kinds of things. Anything else pop into your head?
You talking about that just reminded me of a story. When I was younger, I was doubling my little sister. She was on the back of my bike. There was a family of Africans walking down the road. Now, I have never seen such a dark skin in my life. And as we rode past them at full tilt, my sister says, "Why are those people so black?"
Yeah.
I was so mortified.
But she was just little and she didn't know. But it just highlights why it's important that we have those conversations. Highlighting to somebody that they are different only exacerbates the difference and makes them feel more uncomfortable. Really, really important. And by the way, your sister, your family is Polynesian. You come from your mum has a Polynesian background. So it's not like your family has the fairest of fair skin, you being a remarkable exception. And so isn't it ironic that even coming from a family of slightly darker skinned people, your sister still noticed and made that comment unintentionally, being little, because she hadn't been taught. I reckon there's a couple of others as well. Just really good manners, like when you go through a door, open it, hold it open for other people. I reckon kids could learn that. Offer to help, especially when you're at someone else's house. Cover your mouth when you cough or sneeze, for goodness. Or don't talk while you're eating. Please keep it in your mouth.
Slurping out of a straw.
I don't have a problem with it.
Oh, I can't handle it.
You're going to tell me I'm not allowed to lick the bowl when I finish my ice cream too, aren't you? You're so unfair.
I think that we need to have a lesson in manners.
Well, let's talk about how to teach them, because we could go on with the list. I guess what this highlights, though, is that all of these things, every family is going to see it differently, but all of these things are the manners that we want our kids to internalise. We want them to be respectful of others and to be considerate of how other people want to function in the world so that they're not intruding on them. So how do we teach these manners?
Well, first and foremost is example.
Yep.
If we want our children to be, expressions of gratitude, to respect individuals and, acknowledge that there are differences in the world and that's okay, then it has to actually start here.
To keep their bodily functions to themselves at the dinner table. Be an example.
Be an example.
That's probably the number one thing. In fact, if there's a take-home message, it's be an example of manners. If you want the kids to have good manners, you've got to have good manners. Don't interrupt if you don't want them to interrupt. Speak softly if you want them to speak softly. I've got another one. What about role plays and practicing good manners, especially before you go somewhere?
I think it's a really important part of the process, especially for our younger children. We need to set them up for success, and that they are going into new environments. Like your teacher said, you're going to see things that you haven't seen before, and it's okay, but this is what we expect moving forward.
Yeah, so we call that process induction, where we teach people what to do before they have to do it, so that when it's time to do it, they do it well. We can do that with our children. So
I think, this opportunity to perspective take with our children as well. We're going to Nanny's house this afternoon, and Nanny's got a lot going on her plate, or she's providing dinner for us. It'd be great if we could actually be helpful to her at the other end.
Yeah, and she's got no teeth. Don't say anything about it. Oh, yes, I know she's got stinky breath, but
she's got hairy chin.
Yeah, but we're not going to say anything at all about that, are we? That's it. And the last thing I thought of. So hang on. We've got be an example. We've got role play and practice. We've got induction, actually explicitly teach. We've got perspective taking. And the last thing is develop scripts. Actually teach the kids what to say. Teach them how to say, thank you, I appreciate that, or may I help, or excuse me. And give them the scripts, give them the words. They're only little, they don't know what to say. That hopefully will help them to learn the kinds of manners that we want them to have, so that they can be considerate, respectful people who put others at ease and make the world a nicer place.
Well, thank you, Dr. Coulson, for our conversation today. It's been a pleasure spending time with you.
A delight. Mrs. Coulson, thank you so much for contributing so willingly and so helpfully to the conversation. Hey, we really hope that you've enjoyed the discussion today about teaching kids manners. We want to know, what manners do you wish you could teach your kids? Let us know. Podcasts at happyfamilies.com.au, or you can find us on Facebook, Dr. Justin Coulson's Happy Families. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media, and we also appreciate the work of Craig Bruce, our executive producer. Want to make your family happier? You can get all the info you need about our Happy Families memberships at happyfamilies.com.au.